Hello, everyone, and welcome to this space where I share all things accessibility and wellness, all inspired by my experiences. So, I'd like to think I represent people like myself, although that is not the whole truth in its essence, but it's my truth. So, just because I've expressed something in a certain way doesn't mean that other people, say, for example, in this case, with health conditions, with eye conditions, it doesn't mean that they experience it in the exactly the same way. And every person's experience is individual to them. Their responses, their reactions, everything is completely unique. I always say this, if you put 10 people in the room with rod cone dystrophy, which is my eye condition, so registered blind, severely sight impaired, just to give you some context if you didn't know already, I was diagnosed when I was 9. I've had this my whole life and I'm 27 now. Yeah, it's a degenerative condition. I've got 10% of it left. It's a whole host of things. So it's part color blindness, not black and white, but I mix up colors, and poor depth perception. It's a gritty, static filter constantly moving in my field, and there's dark patches in my peripheral, in my central, and I cannot see in detail. So I'm looking at my laptop screen right now. I can see myself. I can't see anything on my face. It's basically like a bit of a blur. Maybe some like a splodge here, and a shadow here where, my features are, and like my eyes, and the shadow on this half of my face. And going back to what I was saying before, um, so if you put 10 people in the same room with rod cone dystrophy, my eye condition, every individual would experience it differently, even if they were the same age as me. There's people way older than me with the same amount of vision that I have, and there's people younger than me probably with 10% vision. So just because I have this umbrella term diagnosis of rod cone dystrophy, which is an umbrella term for 115 different variants, just because I have that label, it doesn't mean that someone else who also has that label has the exact same experience that I do. I'd like to think that I represent the disabled community in a enlightening and genuinely authentic way, in a way that highlights that we are functional, we are capable, and like as a role model, a strong presence in this community to stand up for myself, people like myself who maybe can't speak up, who are scared to, in case they get questioned, in case they get put down, because that is what happens. Yeah, so I'm here to be that presence, that essence for people who maybe resonate with the story that I'm going to share of discrimination. So going back to the start, I posted my experience, which I'll share in a second, on my local groups, and the response I got was overwhelming. So if I, first of all, read the post, and as I go along, I will comment and I will reflect. And I'm not able to reply to every single comment. I do find it very overwhelming when there's literally hundreds of people reacting to this and messaging me, which I am so grateful for your support. And it means the world because I've spent so much time in my life where these these experiences that happen of discrimination, of being questioned, they happen and they leave a wound. They're very triggering, and they make the person that has the protected characteristics. So there's 10 under the Equality Act 2010. So one of them is disability. So these incidents that happen leave the individual feeling very disempowered, and it really it skews that person's sense of self because when you have a health condition that is long term, that is labeled a disability, and especially when you've had it your whole life, when you have that, it becomes a part of you. And it becomes a part of your identity, and it very much is for me. It's in everything I do. It's in the equality, diversity, and inclusion work that I do. It's in my offerings that I offer and share in my wellness spaces and events that I create. It's everywhere. I've spent so much of my time trying to prove to society that I am. I'm worth being here. And it's so upsetting when you get the odd person. It is the minority, by the way. Not everyone is like this. When you get the minority that comes up to you and tells you you're not blind, so that you don't have the health condition that you claim that you have, that um, you shouldn't be using the support aid that you're using because you're not blind. This has happened before. So I've used a cane before in public, and random people just come up to me and go, "Why have you got this? You're not blind. Your eyes are too pretty. You don't look blind." Random members of the public. So that incident happened in Brighton, so one that I remember. And then you get being denied access into tourist attractions in different countries. So when I'm traveling, this has happened in Marrakesh and Turkey. But that I have some level of understanding there because sometimes there are cultural differences in beliefs and the way that disability is perceived. But I'd like to think that in Britain, we have come a long way, especially since COVID, where I think this one time I was in a train station and I heard, please, the overhead voiceover thing that says, platform one, train approaching, blah, blah, blah. So I heard the person say, please, like, wear your masks, but remember, if someone isn't, that they might have an invisible disability. And I was like, wow, we've come quite far. Like, this is really amazing. But in some ways, we haven't. And incidents like this I'm about to share, yeah, they still happen. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that it's happened, although I was very distraught afterwards and it did affect me and it has affected me and it will stay with me for a while. I am able to step back now because this isn't the first time or the second or third or fourth or fifth time that this has happened. This has happened many times. And I've been through this process before, but I'm asking myself, how can I respond differently? It's so easy to turn to hatred and, war in some sense. And I don't want to create a situation where um, I'm promoting division because that's everything that I'm against. And I'm more on the side of peace. And that sort of mindset and thinking has taken a while for me to get to this point. But I think if we take an example like this and um, compare it with bigger problems in the world that are happening, war happens when both parties want to win at something and they found something to fight for or fight against. And that causes this situation where you're what's the saying? Fire with something to do with fire and fire. Like you're adding more fire to the fire that's already there. Whereas if one side was able to cool that fire down somehow with I'm metaphorically speaking with some water, then maybe peace would emerge or be encouraged in some way. I don't think that hatred is the answer, but I think education and taking a step back, but and seeing that we're all connected. We all have these feelings and experiences, and we can resonate with each other. And our experiences are all parallel in this universe that we get to live in for a short space of time, in this fraction of time. And it's heavy when you experience things like this. But if I allow my emotions to take over and weigh me down, then I can't create anything productive out of that. Of course, I need to allow my emotions to process and allow time for reflection and give myself space because I don't want to suppress how I'm feeling. But I'd just like to remind everyone that only with this sense of unity and love can we coexist efficiently and sustainably together. Remember that hurt people, and healed people heal people. And I want to be on the latter, so healed people heal people. I'm not saying I'm healed, but I want to really um, set that example where we're sending out ripples of healing rather than the opposite. Now, time for the post. Let's give this a read. So bear with me as I read from my phone screen. I'm using this sort of layout and I'm going to be zooming in. So it's got a black background and white writing, just in case if you're wondering how I was reading with 10% vision. So I don't know if that focused, but let's try this. So, oop, there we go. And then I'll probably make it a little bit less zoomed out so I can read it. Okay. The title is Discrimination in Heathfield and a Thank You. So this afternoon at the co-op in Heathfield, so if you don't know what a co-op is, if you're from different countries, it's a supermarket where you get your food. I experienced something deeply upsetting that I feel is important to share. Not to shame, but to raise awareness and hopefully encourage greater understanding. Whilst I was exiting the self-checkout area, I accidentally bumped into a woman. As someone who is registered blind, I've developed set routes to navigate spaces like shops. This was the only moment I wasn't holding my carer's arm, and I thought the path ahead was clear. The woman had entered through the exit and equally as much bumped into me. And despite my immediate and sincere apology, she and her partner were openly rude. So there's been many times, so I'm just going to reflect as I read. There's been many times where I've bumped into people, and in Britain we just we just say sorry, laugh it off, and say it's okay, um, just out of politeness. But in this case, apparently it wasn't okay. Even though on reflection, as I was writing the post, I realized I was actually exiting throughout the right route. And there's a system where you go in through a different way. But she happened to come in through the exit, which really threw me off. It was completely unexpected. So when I explained that I am blind, so I said I'm blind because she told me to watch where I was going, which really threw me off because I've never had that response before. Maybe once, but it hasn't blew up out of proportion. Um, and then I said, sorry, like I'm registered blind, and I laughed it off because, how could she tell? It's not visible. It's an invisible condition. Yeah, I don't think it's very visible to sighted people. So, when I explained that I am blind, I was accused of making excuses, suggesting that I wasn't blind, and was told I should be using a cane or wearing a lanyard. So, with this, I don't know what I said. It was a bit of a blur, but I looked at her like confused. And then I was like, what do you mean? And then just because like the times I have worn a cane, people have said, why are you wearing a cane? And this was the only time, and I was with my carer, and it was in my local shop that I've been to a million times. Nothing like this has ever happened before. And I don't know why this person felt entitled. She was going in through the exit. I was coming out. But and I apologized. I didn't get an apology from her. I got verbally abused by this person, saying I was making excuses, suggesting that I wasn't blind, and that I needed to prove my condition essentially by wearing a lanyard or having a cane on me. Unfortunately, this was the only time that I didn't have a lanyard or a cane on me. I always use my cane and lanyard, and throughout the whole experience in the shop, it was very strange because I kept saying to my partner when we were in the shop, look, please, can I stick next to you? Please, can I hold your arm? My eyes aren't doing so great at the moment, and I need your arm. I need to stick by you. And there were times in the shop where I was like, oh, can you hurry up? Let's just go. Let's go on our walk. It was a really sunny day. And as we were going to the checkout, I was like, oh, I'm going to get some blueberries. And he was like, why didn't you do that when I was looking over there? I was like, no, I need to stick with you. Like, I can't, it's too dark in here. Um, and that split second that I left him I literally turned around and made two steps to go out the exit of the self-checkout area. Um, is the time that this happened. Um, And it's a weird situation because being told by a sighted person, I'm assuming she was sighted because she had no knowledge of blindness, um, or her knowledge was fueled by stereotypes. It's strange because I don't think I've been told to wear a cane or a lanyard. When I said I don't need to do that like all of the time. And then she said, well, you do because you're bumping into people. She equally as much had bumped into me. So I was like, I froze and I looked at her when she was throwing out all this other stuff at me. Um, I didn't know what to say. Like, I wish I had like part of me wants to create a leaflet I can just whip out and give to people when they're treating me like this, like educating them on what a disability is. Yeah, I always try and see the goodness in people, which puts me in a vulnerable position because then people take advantage. And I'm really learning because last year and throughout my life, I have been discriminated against, whether it's racial discrimination or discrimination against my condition. Yeah, this has happened a lot. I spent so much of my childhood trying to fit in with white British people because I was made to feel like I wasn't a part of them, even though I was born here. And it made me feel like I had to be like everyone around me. And as I grew older, I realized that actually being authentic and owning that and showing that is so much more of a beautiful space and more empowered space to live through and in. Like, I get to be myself fully without without following the crowd. And I think that's a great quality to have. Society does not promote individuality. Years and years and years of my life was spent trying to fit in with other people and be like everyone else. I used to powder my face like white. I don't know if you can see my skin color, but it's like a olivey. It's not pale white. It probably looks this way because of the lighting, but in person, I look quite tanned, and that's my sort of my skin color. But I used to powder my face white when I went to school because I wanted to look completely British. But yeah, that's feeding into racial discrimination there and bullying. Um, but again, I wanted to explain that because in the post I say this is the first time discrimination has happened in my hometown, but actually it's the first time that discrimination against my condition has happened in my hometown. And it hasn't always been a place that I felt safe, but it has been a place that I felt safe for a long time. So the next part of the post goes, she said I was staring right at them, as if that invalidated my condition. But blindness isn't necessarily seeing black, which can be a common misconception fueled by stereotyping, media, and lack of education. Most people who are blind, myself included, still have some level of vision. We also rely on other senses like hearing and proprioception to locate sounds, objects, and people. We are not stupid, and we should not be treated as though we are incapable or deceitful. So, I get this quite a lot. So, it's either, you're playing on your phone, so you can't be blind, or you're staring right at me into my eyes, so you can't be blind. And so, this is a misconception. The majority of people who are registered blind still have some light perception at least, and some people can't see at all, that is correct, but the majority do have a level of vision. And I am one of them people. I'm registered severely sight impaired under the blind umbrella. And yeah, like we can use our phones. My completely blind friends can use their phones without looking at the screen, and it's wild. Like they can they can navigate their phones better than a sighted person can. So that's fact one. And we can look directly, not to freak you out, but we can look directly into your eyes because we know where your eyes are. If your voice, I mean, I imagine for even a completely blind person or someone with very little vision, if your voice is, well, maybe I can talk from my experience in a dim room, or I don't like in a scenario, for example, in a restaurant or a pub or somewhere that's dimly lit. If someone's voice is coming out their mouth, obviously, then their eyes are going to be above their mouth and slightly apart. So we can figure out where your eyes are and we can look directly into your eyes. We're not stupid, and I don't understand why people think we can't look into, like, I don't understand why people think that blind people can't make eye contact because I can, and I can imagine that other blind people can by using their other senses and common sense in general. And at this point, when the lady said she's staring right at us, look, I think that's what she said. I was quite a few meters away from them. I could determine sort of that. And I was sort of walking away and I turned around and then she said that because I was just so shocked. But my mouth was open. I was like, why are you still talking to me like this? What have I done to you? I've literally said sorry and that I'm blind. That's all I've said. And maybe I've said the word what. And at that distance, I could see where they were because I could pinpoint where they were and I could see their shape, but I wouldn't be able to tell if that was my dad or that was my grandma, I don't know, like or my friend or um like from that distance, I can distinguish where their eyes are. Of course I can. I'm not stupid. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I think this sort of thinking comes from a lack of representation in media, and we're taught that blind means seeing black, or having autism means being stupid, or just these stupid misconceptions. And there needs to be more people that represent their group in a way that show that we are actually functional, and we have to work really hard. Like our senses have to work extra hard to navigate the world, to navigate society that isn't set up for us, that is set up for a normal, uh, in essence, able-bodied person. And here I don't want to create division between an able-bodied person and a disabled person, but I'm just trying to highlight the problem here. So I think representation is very important, and also teaching your kids, teaching your children. They're the next generation. Like they're the ones that are going to make a difference. If school isn't going to teach us, if the government aren't going to teach us, if media isn't going to teach us, then we need to represent people like us, and for ourselves and for the people in under the same category, I guess. And we need to openly get to a point where we are able to share our differences and work together, and include these topics in our conversations. I'm not the sort of person that will sit down and talk about, I don't know, say if I liked cars, but cars and money and brands and this stuff that essentially doesn't really matter. It's just things that are stuff that divide us. I want to talk about, and I encourage my peers, my friends, my family to talk about important subjects that are going to make a difference in the world. Like we've come to a point where we're so resourceful. We have all the information we'll ever need pretty much at the tips of our fingers. So use that. Don't be swarmed up in money, in brands, in all of this stuff that essentially is consumerism. It's fueled by capitalism. You know, success isn't earning millions of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds. That's not success. Success is not being rich with your money. It's being able to be empathetic. We are losing our empathy. We've become robots to our devices, and we're not utilizing these devices to the best that we can. Because imagine if in caveman times they had access to phones. They wouldn't be on Instagram and Facebook and showing off their lives. They wouldn't be um, showing off their fast cars and all of this. They'd be using the information, any information they can find out to focus on important things. I'm assuming anyway. Um, and yeah, that's a whole another thing to go into. But it's just a reminder to really utilize this powerful resource that we have, the phone, the smartphone, the internet. Social media can be utilized in an effective and positive way, and it can raise awareness for important topics like this. Rant over for that one. Let's try and get back to. So the message from that was, we are not stupid, we are highly functional. Any person with a health condition We are just trying to get by like everyone else is, and we're surviving here, and we're learning how to thrive through finding creative ways to navigate this very confusing world that sometimes puts us down. And it's hard, it's disappointing, and it's a lot. Anyway, let me read a bit more and then I will reflect a bit more. So I was diagnosed at age 9 with a rare degenerative condition, and now at 27, I have 10% of my vision left. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time I faced discrimination, but it was the first time it happened here. And I froze. I didn't get a chance to say what I wanted to in the moment. So, to the couple involved and to everyone reading this or listening to this, disability is not always visible. Kindness costs nothing. Assuming the worst about someone's condition can be deeply damaging. Discrimination can leave someone feeling disempowered, unwelcome in society, and isolated. But I also want to share a moment of light. So I'll do that in a minute. So that last bit, unwelcome in society and isolated. Usually, and my initial response yesterday was when I broke down outside the shop, I I went into my little ball, I had my little panic attack, and I just thought, I don't want to be in this world. I don't want to be a part of this society. Why does this keep happening? Why can I not be accepted still from when I was a little girl to being outcasted because of my genetics to now and throughout last several years outcasted and excluded from society, questioned, and I felt like I've been booted out of this earth in my mind, like my body, it just like it went into this little ball and I was having these really destructive thoughts. So in that moment, I felt very self-destructive. And in the past, that is something that I used to struggle with. But now I can compartmentalize and allow my emotions to process and pass because they always do. And then I'll wait till I can think a bit more rationally rather than irrationally to give myself space to reflect, to see how I can turn this incident into a potent experience to share and educate. But some people haven't been through that process, and some people do act on those thoughts. And it's so damaging. And I really want to emphasize that because words, that there used to be this saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can't hurt me. And it really isn't like that. Words can hurt you and they can stay with you for a lifetime. And this messaging that I've personally had since I was little, you don't belong here. Go back to your own country. Um, you're not blind. Just exclusionary verbal vomit, basically. Yeah, it's a lot. It's heavy, and I feel it. I feel it here, and I feel it here. So I'm patting my heart and my throat for those who can't see. So there's that block because I want to say so much. I want to change the world, but I can only do my part. And I know that the universe has gifted me. So this is how I think now. The universe has gifted me with this condition so that I can be a light, guiding light for other people. And and so that I can show them that they are functional as well, and that they don't need to listen to this talk from um, external voices, that they can't because of their condition or their characteristic or their circumstance, that they can't achieve their dreams, that they can't be a part of society, that they're not a part of this earth. So yeah, just emphasizing how traumatizing incidents like this can be. I'm guessing especially so for a younger person as they're developing and trying to find their foot on this earth. So I wanted to share a moment of light here. So as I broke down outside the shop, a young family came over to check if I was okay. I didn't get their names, but their warmth and their children's empathy moved me deeply. They knew so much about the subject and didn't question me. Thank you so much. You reminded me that there are kind people who teach their children compassion and inclusion. You gave me hope, and I deeply appreciate you and your family's kindness. Before this, I'd wrote, what hurt me the most is that this happened in my own hometown, a place where I'd always felt safe. Well, generally. I later learned that they had a young child with them and another baby on the way. It's heartbreaking to think that this kind of behavior is being modeled to the next generation. Yeah, it just really baffled me that this lady spoke to me how she did in front of her child, and that her partner allowed it and also joined in and was showing aggression in his tone of voice when he repeatedly told us to get out. So coming back to this lovely family that I've just bypassed, I'm so sorry. They did comment in the end, and the lady, I think her name was Serena, they came up to me and said, like, what's up, what's wrong, what's up? After they heard my partner say, I can't believe she talk to you like that. She should not be questioning your disability or something. And then he realized that they were listening and were like, what? Hang on a sec. And then they came round. There was a lady and her partner and their kids. I think they had like three or four. I don't think she was much older than me, but she was absolutely lovely. And I just felt so like a friend had come and had saved me from my sadness in that moment. I immediately asked her if I could hug her, because she had that sort of motherly essence about her that I needed. And it really helped. And I got back up because I didn't want to be breaking down in front of her children, although her children were so educated on this subject. And it blew me away because I was so grateful that, in almost the same few breaths that this incident has happened, then another family comes and proves to me that there are families out there, there are people out there that are good. I don't think that actually has happened before. And I really needed that to remind me that there are good people out there that do understand the importance of this topic. And yeah, it just really humbled me, and I really appreciated their presence in that moment. Even their children were saying, what's wrong? Like, what happened? I can't believe they would do that. That's not okay. Um, yeah, they really helped me almost instantly pick me back up because I realized, this is good parenting in that what I've seen in that space. Um, I even told them, I was like, what you're doing here is incredible parenting. You're teaching and educating your kids on this. And they seem like they're aware and have this ability to exercise compassion. to someone in distress in public, to a stranger. And I don't know many children who do that. And that really makes me sad because they are being taught by their parents who, yeah, who are preparing them for this world. Um, and that is something very crucial that I wanted to put in this post because they are the next generation and they are part of that next generation and they are emanating that humanness about them, essentially. We lose our humanness when we lose our empathy, when we lose our compassion to our technology, to money, to what we deem as success, and hatred and war. Gabor Mate, I really highly recommend you check his work out. He says, we lose our humanness when we lose our sense of empathy. And he was referring to the Holocaust when he was a baby and his family were involved in, and linking that with today's situations in war. The horrible crimes that are happening in the world. So I'm relating this to that because this is where it starts. Incidents like this, posts like this, hundreds and hundreds of people reacting that I truly thank, and I will read some of your comments and reflect on them here as well. But creating division between me and her or them and imposing hatred on her isn't going to bring me peace or them peace or anyone else concerned peace. I think it's about, yeah, stepping back and reflecting on this notion that you could either educate someone on a matter that you're passionate about, for example, or you can let them be with their ignorance because some people don't want to know. And that doesn't necessarily make them stupid, but I think that, it we can't control everyone, and I guess we shouldn't, but we should always promote this idea of compassion and healing and understanding. So thank you for the family, especially for helping me, um, and being there and setting a great example for their kids as well. That's very important to me. And then I put here, and thank you to the co-op manager for offering me a drink. The gesture was appreciated, it mattered. Um, so as someone who heavily works in equality, diversity, and inclusion, and who advocates for invisible illness awareness and accessibility, I want to leave you with this. Talk to your children, friends, and colleagues about invisible disabilities. Teach grace before judgment. Understand that not everyone's experience is visible or obvious. Remember, disability is the only protected characteristic under the Equality Act 2010 that can affect anyone at any given time, apart from gender discrimination, I guess. And that is a quote, well, this speaker at a TED Talk that I went to in Brighton a few years back. Her name's Victoria Jenkins, I think. I will link her video down below in the description or the comments section, because her speech was all about disability and inclusion. And I think she's doing really well at the moment with her. I think she's the first person in Britain to um, create disabled clothing in a way. I think I got that right, but you can look into her a bit more. And she said, disability concerns us all. It can happen to any one of us at any given time. That's what she said. And that has stuck with me, that like this is important. This can happen at anyone at any given time. I have a genetic condition. No one else in my family has it, but it happened to me. I know people who have lost their vision overnight, randomly, when they were completely healthy before. It can happen to any one of us at any given time. So it's a subject that concerns all of us. And the next thing that I wrote was, people with health conditions are not a deficit or a disorder. To segregate them from society and leave their gifts undiscovered creates communities that lack diversity. So by this, I mean, if you look at the term disabled in a way, it is disabling, it's limiting. And I have a blog post on this that I will also put in the description. The term ADHD, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, dystrophy in my condition. It's like the medical system have intentionally used these labels to put these people down. And I've got another video on the different models of disability that impacts our thinking, and it's a whole long video, so I'll put that in the description below. But the way that so the social model, for example, is that, I'm not blind by my condition alone, but by the barriers that society creates. So it's like empowering models and then disempowering models that you can research and go into a little bit. We're not a deficit, we're not a disorder, and we should not be treated this way. I think people have this understanding that people on benefits or people who don't work are lazy or are trying to just get money off the system. But no, it's not the case. And even if it is the case, society has made these people feel like they can't do anything. And it's so unbelievably hard to get a job when you have a health condition or when you're slightly different. The system isn't set up for people with health conditions to thrive. Like, we have to jump through so many hoops to be able to work. To this day, I have not been employed by someone. I'm luckily, this is actually happening in a couple of weeks, where I'm delivering my first public speech employed by someone to do with equality, diversity, and inclusion. But up until now, like, I'm 27 and I am someone who is extremely hardworking. I've always looked for work since I was 13, but haven't had a platform that isn't volunteering and working for free, that I have gone into, employed by someone, and been paid. I've worked before, but I haven't been paid. That's not just me. That's not just my experience. I know that many other people feel like they aren't worth being paid. It's hard when, for example, I've applied for a disability organisation before, an actual disability organisation, and I met all of the criteria with flying colours, and my cover letter was absolutely perfect. And I had someone else read it as well, and they said it was perfect. There was nothing wrong with it, and I was promised an interview even with a health condition. Yet I never even got an interview, and that isn't the first time that had happened. So this happens everywhere, and it's really hard to show proof. Um, and yeah, this is why I now work as a freelancer and someone who has set up their own business, because I am my own boss, because no one else is willing to pay me, basically, apart from this job that I've got in public speaking, which is coming up very soon. So thank you for reading. And so I'm just reading off my phone, off the post now. And if you have faced discrimination in our community, so to YouTube, if you have faced discrimination at any point in your life, please do share your experiences. The more we share, the more we can educate. So even if you've commented on the original post, feel free to comment on here so other people can see and can resonate and can have that nudge to also open up as well or realize that they're not alone. So when I'm reading this, I want people to also take this as if I'm reading this to you and any discriminatory incidents that you've had. So I had someone comment from a local shop saying, please come and see us. We could happily give you a hug, a listening ear, and a cup of tea. I'm sorry this has happened to you. I have also faced prejudice and its exclusion to the point I struggle with coming into a town I've known 35 years. I'm sad also they are parents, but hopefully other influences in their children's lives will make them see that their parents' way of behaving isn't a good one. Do come and visit us anytime. We would love to meet you and learn from you how we can make your shopping experience better and safer. So that's amazing. That's a local shop that's seen and is offering me a tea and has shared their own experience. And, you know, to not be able to feel welcome in your own town. This is a small village here, and it doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to happen anywhere. So someone else has commented, I'm sorry this was your experience, and I'm grateful that you have shared this to raise awareness and raise the love and vibration that exists within the community. That's lovely, aligned with all the spiritual stuff, like raising the vibration of the community. You know, my intention isn't to pass shame and hatred, like I've said many times. Here, they've also said, thank you for the beautiful reminder about teaching us to upgrade our levels of kindness, understanding, knowledge to make sure inclusive actions and thoughts are the way the majority of us go through our day. Sending love. That's really beautiful. A lot of people are saying sorry, so sorry again. And I thank you. And I am grateful for your love and your support. And I really feel that. I feel like I've been hugged by the community. And I was not expecting this response at all. Someone else has commented saying, so sorry to hear this. I am currently training a guide dog puppy, and we understand how difficult it is for partially sighted people like you. Our puppy will have to learn several routes if he makes the grade. I've just read through all of the comments that have been posted so far, and they keep coming. So I've realized I can't really respond individually. But overall, I'm so glad that it's a positive one, that my local communities are compassionate and they're showing empathy. And yeah, I'm very grateful. And I'm starting to feel a little bit emotional from it after reading the comments. And in no way, again, I just want to emphasize that I do not want to spread hatred about this couple. They had a kid and she was pregnant. They maybe had something going on. Even if I did find out the names, I would not post them because I don't think that's fair, even though how I was treated was not fair. But I just want to encourage this way of thinking to as many people as I can. Like everyone who's commented is completely justified when they say what, ignorant people. That's fine. And I hope that if they do see these comments in this post, that they learn something and that they teach their children about people and their differences and how the human race is diverse and how we need to be accepting of that, of people's different races, genders, disabilities, conditions, anything. But I want to show that we can be compassionate even in situations like this. And of course, I'm sad about this. Of course, I feel a bit wounded and I feel angry and I feel emotional. I do feel all these things, but I, if I had a sword in that moment, I'd put it down because that's the way people can create peace with one another. I am just grateful that a lot of people are commenting, sharing their stories as well, and responding in a way that is kind. Nothing really excuses us to be unkind. If I had children, especially with me in that moment, I would like to think that I would be highlighting or influencing behavior that was inspiring to them. Yeah, just I don't think my knee-jerk reaction would be to be hurtful. And even if I was, I would apologize immediately. I also want to add in here that not every situation is bad. And maybe what happened yesterday happened for a reason. Maybe the universe is guiding me so that I can speak up again and again and again, and I can share this message and share it in a constructive and balanced way, I hope, in a way that's informative and educational. Recently, someone said to me, no experience is bad in a sense. In retrospect, it could be seen as something that was meant to happen. Obviously, that probably doesn't go for every experience. There are horrible things that happen to people, but generally speaking, and yeah, I am starting to get a little bit tired now, so I will close off here. I just wanted to say thank you so much for people who care, for people who exercise empathy, who haven't lost that humanness about them. That is what will keep the world going sustainably. Empathy, compassion, love, peace. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope that you've learned something today. And I hope that anyone that has experienced anything like this can find the courage to take a step back, reflect, and find a way to find a meaning. From this, I'm really going to deeply think about what happened today after I finished recording this video, and I'm going to think about how further I can make a change in my local communities and in the world by using the internet. Yeah, I feel like this condition has been given to me for me to be able to be a voice of peace between the division of able-bodied people, and disabled people, of people with different characteristics, of different people. In the end, we are all one, and even the emotions of loneliness that we feel, every emotion that we feel, everyone has felt, basically. It's what unifies us, it connects us together. Please do comment and feel free to continue this conversation in the comments and share your stories. And there will be people who don't understand, who don't want to understand, but there will also be many more people who want to be educated on this stuff and who want to exercise and explore this feeling of love and compassion and peace. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't want those things when you peel back all the layers. There's loads more vlogs, and lots more stuff on here that will be linked below if you want to find out more. I also have a community group on Facebook called Visions Community if you'd like to join on there as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video, see what else happens.